February the 11th, 2018, the glory of God falls in our sanctuary at Christ Fellowship Church in Dawsonville, Georgia. Our church has been in continuous revival ever since that time. We have witnessed now over 25,000 people come through the baptismal waters at the North Georgia Revival. I've traveled all over the country, being able to share the story of how God showed me the vision of fire on the water. And we literally have seen thousands and thousands of people get immersed in that fire water. One of my most favorite places I've traveled to is Prestonsburg, Kentucky, and I got to meet some incredible people. And in those waters at Victorious Faith Church, they have literally seen the miraculous power of God in demonstration. Today on Point of Contact, Pastors Jason and Mandy Adair are going to be with us as they're going to continue to share all the wonderful things that God has done, not only in their lives, but in the people in Prestonsburg. I promise you, today's show is going to build your faith. In fact, it's going to get you to a point of releasing your faith so you can experience the miracle-working power of God. Next on Point of Contact.
God gave Pastor Todd Smith a vision of his church's baptistry, a strip of supernatural fire blazed on the water. Since then, thousands have been baptized, receiving manifestations of miracles, signs, and wonders. Many have been radically saved and healed of long-time physical ailments. The water has become a point of contact, a place of supernatural encounter with God. Get ready to experience your point of contact with your hosts, Pastors Todd and Karen Smith.
I'm super honored to have Pastors Jason and Mandy Adair from Victorious Faith Church in Prestonsburg, Kentucky with us today. I'm telling you, you're going to be really super encouraged. Pastor Jason, Pastor Mandy, welcome to Point of Contact.
Thank you.
I want to talk about what God's doing in the baptismal waters in Prestonsburg, Kentucky. Now, Prestonsburg, Kentucky is famous because that's Loretta Lynn's neck of the woods, coal miner's daughter.
That's right.
And when I went there and traveled, there's mountain after mountain after mountain.
Yes, sir.
But God is moving in the mountains in eastern Kentucky. There is an authentic, genuine move of the Spirit. When I was there, we did water baptisms, immersions. And one individual got into the water, because this is going to be so encouraging to people, with MS.
Yes.
I want you to walk us through what that looked like, what happened. I was there that night and watched with my very own eyes a miracle take place. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the backdrop and then what happened in the water and what happened after her immersion.
Well, Josie had been diagnosed with MS, and she'd had MS for years. And she had quite a few grandkids that she was unable to play with because of the pain. And she came, she heard about the miracles that were happening in the water. She came to the service that night, and as history shows us, people stand in line. I'm still amazed after all of this time how many times people stand in line for 2 and 3 hours just to get in that pool. We've seen demoniacs, people who were demon-possessed, stand in line for 3 hours to get in the pool. They're manifesting demonic spirits in the line, waiting to get in the pool to be delivered. And people that stand in line for 2 hours to get in the water to be saved. Yeah. So it's just, it's mind-boggling how God keeps those people there, but they know their hope is there, that they're going to be delivered. Josie was the same way. She was in tremendous pain. Yeah. In the line, I remember going in and out. As you all know, that I don't do many of the immersions myself. I pastor, I walk around and I'm praying with people, and as I would walk through the hall, her husband would be holding her up, or she would be leaning against the wall in tremendous pain. But when she got in the water that night and her husband got in the water with her, when she went down the first time, she said, something's happening. And I think they baptized her 3 times. She went under 3 times. And when she came up the last time, there was a shout. Yeah. And there was a victory yell that came out of her mouth. And everyone knew. The whole atmosphere actually in the room, and you were there, so you remember that. The atmosphere changed. Something tremendous had just happened.
I'll never forget the look on her face.
Right.
Just the utter shock and surprise. And she was like, and grabbed her head, and she was saying, I don't have any pain. And it was amazing. You couldn't fake that. You couldn't manufacture that. That was the face of somebody who just felt bodily crippling pain leave their body.
And her husband is standing there, as you see in the picture, and he's embracing her with tears because he knows that she has been delivered. She's been healed. She got straight out of that water.
She didn't need any help getting out.
She needed no help getting out. We had to pick her up and put her into the pool. But on the way out, she climbed the stairs, dried off a little bit. I'm not going to say fully. And the next thing we know, she took off, as we say in Eastern Kentucky, like a shot, and began to run around the room. And from side to side, the front of the altar, she ran side to side, just shouting and praising God for the healing that she had received from MS. And she left that night, and we said, what are you going to do? And she said, I'm going home, and I'm going to wake every grandkid I've got up. I'm getting in the floor, and I'm going to play with them tonight. And she did. She went to their children's house, went to the grandkids' house, woke them all up, got them out of bed, and got down on the floor for 2 or 3 hours that night. We're talking midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and got down on the floor, which she had never been able to do, and was able to play with her kids. And when they said, she came back and told us, when the grandkids said, Grandma, what? You've never done this before. She was able to look at all of her grandkids and say, Jesus met me in the water just like he said he would, and healed me of MS. And she's healed till right now. I mean, she's healed today as she was when she came out of the water that night.
We are seeing in the baptismal waters more and more people healed of MS.
Hallelujah.
And that is a debilitating disease.
Yes.
We all know someone that has MS, or we know someone who knows someone. It is a horrific disease. And for her to get into the water after waiting, you know, 2 to 3 hours, can get dramatically healed.
Right.
Is absolutely mind-blowing to us.
Yes.
Not in a prayer line, in which we're thankful, but in a pool of water. And I love this about your church. We baptized the first time we were there in like a 2.5 foot, 3 foot swimming pool at the front.
I still apologize. It was way too small.
Then the next time we come, there is an above-ground swimming pool.
5,000 gallons.
5,000 gallons where you're baptizing multiple people at the same time. But they lifted her up, helped her get in. Mandy, what's going through your mind as you're watching this? I mean, these are miracles. These are not, again, not just my pinkies hurt or my fingers hurt. This is something that could kill you. Literally take your life.
Yes.
What are you thinking when you see this?
All the permeating sense in the room is just you're awed by God's goodness and His great love for His people. You just stand in there and weep because you know these people. You've seen their struggle and what they have had to endure for years. And you just see in a moment God break through just because His nature. He's just so good. You just see, we saw people who'd never been in a church before, get in the water, get saved, and come up speaking in tongues. And you're like, they didn't even have any teaching about the baptism of the Holy Ghost. You just see God's eagerness to heal, His eagerness to encounter people, and you're just left in awe, thinking, you're even better than I thought you were or could be.
Because the amazing thing to me, at least, after these years of ministry, and, you know, I'm 28 years in ministry, but it's not one of these things where, well, tonight's a cancer night or tomorrow night is a MS night. It's all happening at the same time for hours. As long as we're in the water, it doesn't matter if it's cancer or if it's a crippling arthritis or whatever it is, it's all being healed all at the same time, just over and over and over and over for hours. You watch this, and you know, I learned about the great healing revival where individual ministries had individual anointings for certain things to be healed. But it seems like in the pool, God just, all of those streams have come together to make one river, and it's all washing away right in a baptism pool. So it's just astounding to me to see these miracles.
There's such abundance of God's power.
Absolutely.
Such abundance. And He's in the waiting.
Yes.
He's in
Yes.
the waiting.
He is. Yes, he is.
That it seems the longer someone waits, it just seems the Lord really takes note of that and meets them in a very, very, very special way. I just love it. And these stories just stir my faith. And I know they're stirring your faith as well right now. And when we come back, you're going to hear the story of a young girl that had $12,000 hearing aids that she doesn't need anymore. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be back with more of Point of Contact in just a moment.
Log on to kingdomready.tv to access Pastor Todd Smith's popular books, e-books, e-courses, blogs, and YouTube videos of the world-famous Dawsonville, North Georgia revival he hosts. Then bring true revival into your own life by getting the essential book for our times, Creating a Habitation for God's Glory. This book will help you learn the critical difference between having a short visitation of God and instead experience a lasting Holy Spirit habitation as God's powerful presence rests on you and actively lives in you. Carry God's holy fire wherever you go and see the atmosphere literally change for good all around you. Discover and activate important keys that help you pass God's test so you can cultivate and sustain a lifestyle totally saturated by God. To access all of Todd Smith's personal revival resources, log on right now to kingdomready.tv.
Now back to Point of Contact.
Before the break, I told you about a young girl that no longer needs her hearing aids. Now, Pastor Jason, Pastor Mandy, these hearing aids are not the normal that you buy over the counter.
Right.
Very specialized, very expensive, $12,000. Walk us through what happened to her in the baptismal water and what she's doing now. Tell us about Abigail.
Abigail was born with something called auditory processing disorder. So her hearing was not good, and she couldn't speak well as a result of her poor hearing. And she had never in her life, she's 16 years old when she was immersed, she had never passed a hearing test one time in her entire life. And also part of her story is she endured a lot of physical and sexual abuse by someone in her family. And so as a result of that, there was a lot of anger and bitterness and hurt, even against her own mother, just because of the situation. And so when she gets in the pool, the Lord begins to deal with her heart about forgiveness, and specifically forgiving her mother. She had not hugged her mother in 3 years. She's a 16-year-old, had not even hugged her mother in 3 years. And so when she goes under the water, she comes up and has an immediate manifestation of healing. These hearing aids that were enabling her for 16 years, were no longer necessary. She takes them out. But the first thing she does when she gets out of the water was go straight to her mother and embrace her mother. And they wept together as God's healing power mended that relationship and restored what the enemy had stolen. So she goes back to the doctor and passes her hearing screening test. No longer needs speech therapy. And in fact, every time we had Abigail come up and tell her testimony, she talks as well and as clearly as anybody you've ever heard. So the Lord did a huge thing in her heart. By the time that these immersions were over, she would come over and over again. But the last time she was baptized, she was standing in for the person that abused her. Oh. She was standing in and believing God to encounter this man and to save him and to heal him and deliver him. That's the depth of the work that God was doing in her heart. A beautiful girl, you would have never known that she'd endured so much. But God did a deep, deep work that changed the trajectory of her whole life.
Mandy, I was asking the Lord one day, why baptism? And I heard the Lord speak to me when I asked him. He said, Todd, he says, I'm coming with vengeance after my bride. I'm coming with vengeance after my bride. Tell me about the gentleman that came to help and assist in baptism with Raynaud's disease.
Well, Pastor Allen came 5 hours from Western Kentucky, a church that you've been to, but he came all the way over to Eastern Kentucky, 5 hours with his friends, and we put him up to help baptize. Well, we didn't know this, but Pastor Allen had been diagnosed with Raynaud's disease, which causes a constriction of the blood vessels, and your extremities get freezing cold. So he had to travel with an electric blanket, and he would have to turn it up high because he literally felt like, he said, he was freezing to death all the time. And he was standing, and apparently Raynaud's disease is not common. It's you know.
So let me stop, because when you say Raynaud's disease, you're saying the tips of his fingers,
all of his hands, feet, nose, ears, everything
just cold all the time.
He
no
said
blood flow.
freezing, just like you're out in freezing cold weather all the time. So in the hotel with his other pastor friends, they're sitting around enjoying air conditioning, and he's under a heated blanket.
Oh my.
So it's very extreme, but it's not very common. So he's assisting one of the men that's ministering to people in the pool, and a young lady named Darla comes in. What are you in the pool for, Darla? She begins to explain why she's in the pool. Pastor Allen realizes she has the same thing I have. This very uncommon disease. She's in the pool to get healed of what I'm suffering with. Darla is baptized and comes up out of the water, and as many people do, splashes water up on the ministers. Well, Pastor Allen just got soaked, and instantly, standing there with water dripping off his face, he felt his hands and feet get hot.
Yep.
Are you serious?
So this disease, he knew right then. Yeah. I wasn't even in the water. The water just got splashed on me, and he was healed. And he went back, again, 5 hours west to Western Kentucky, went to the doctor, diagnosed, was totally healed, completely healed. Now, the rest of that story, which is that's amazing. I come to Dawsonville. You asked me to come preach and talk about what's going on in East Kentucky. I tell this story like I just told you. Darla is sitting in East Kentucky in a live stream service. They're watching our service from Dawsonville, and Darla, who got baptized, is sitting in the room. And I'll let Mandy take it from
and she hears.
But she wasn't healed when she got baptized.
No, not of that. Every night that she's baptized, God did something different. That night she didn't get healed of that. So this night she hears this testimony, and she just is like, I have got to get baptized again. I am going to be healed of this. So she goes up at the front of that church. They have the tank ready. She gets in the water, and that night she encounters Jesus in the water and is healed of Raynaud's. She comes out and goes to the bathroom to wash her hands, and the water, she goes, it's hot! It's hot! And that had been the first time in years she was able to distinguish hot water from cold, because she couldn't even tell the difference. And people in the bathroom all start to, what's happening? Because she's screaming, and she just realized, the realization hit her that she was completely healed, has had no more problems with that since.
I don't know if you're sensing what I'm sensing right now, but I'm telling you, the presence of God is so strong right here, because we're just magnifying Jesus.
Yeah.
Yes, we are just magnifying the King. And I'm telling you, what He is doing in the waters in Dawsonville and in Kentucky, He wants to do in your life right now. Yes. When we come back, I'm going to tell you the story, or Pastor Jason's going to tell you a story of how an atheist comes to one of the immersion services and falls under conviction and gets baptized. Wait till you hear his story. Amazing. That is incredible.
We'll be back with more of Point of Contact in just a moment.
Many say America is broken and that God has finally abandoned us. Can America be saved? Are we at the point of no return? Log on right now to KingdomReady.tv and get Todd Smith's essential book for our times, Come Alive, Dry Bones. Through this book, you will realize the dangerous spirits behind the alarming apathy and spiritual complacency of the church, recognize the celebrity spirit that has infected the church, and the urgency of the real spiritual condition of America, and see the unfolding of God's encouraging plans for America and and the world, and how you are a part of the solution. Todd Smith, the pastor who hosted the tremendous outpouring of God's revival fire in the North Georgia Revival, wants to share his revival resources with you. Log on now to kingdomready.tv. Log on to kingdomready.tv to access Pastor Todd's website for his popular books, ebooks, e-courses, blogs, revival videos, and testimonies right from his church that for over 4 years has hosted a major outpouring of God's Spirit in the North Georgia Revival. In his eye-opening book, Speaking in Tongues, Your Secret Weapon, Todd Smith, a former Southern Baptist pastor, addresses all of the issues and misunderstandings people often wonder about with speaking in tongues, as he tells you why he strongly supports praying in tongues as one of the most powerful secret weapons a believer can have. Why your prayer language is the tool to use in prayer to push against the toughest situations. How a believer who prays in tongues spiritually builds themselves up and strengthens the church, and much more. To access Todd Smith's powerful resources, log on to kingdomready.tv.
Now back to Point of Contact.
I'm telling you, these stories that we're hearing today are literally so rich. They're filled with gold. I'm telling you, the glory of the Lord. I think one of my favorite stories that you tell, though, is how an atheist comes to one of the baptismal services and just stands over there to the side, watching and observing the power of God, watching his friends that he knows that are sick encounter the healing power of God. Walk us through that, Pastor Jason, Pastor Mandy, because this is phenomenal. I love this.
As you said, I mean, he's a big, burly guy, and he was watching, and you could tell with every miracle that he was watching, it was building something inside of him. And the next thing I know, standing by as an observer, that he had left the place where he was observing.
Now, he's an atheist.
He's an atheist, self-avowed, yes, absolutely. Very, very vocal about his atheist belief, if you could say that. And so he's gone. And I was like, where did he go? Well, I turn and look. He was in line to get in the pool. And I'm like, okay, this is really something. And of course, it takes a while. It takes a while for the line to go. And he's still standing there. The closer he gets to the pool, the more he shakes and the more he vibrates, until it came time for him to climb the ladder to get inside the pool. And I thought he was going to tear the ladder apart because he was just shaking under the power of God. And when he stepped down into the water, oh, it was like a bull. I mean, it was like a Brahma bull had stepped into that water. And as the ministers began to minister to him, the power of God came on him. And he just, these noises that he was making, because he kept saying, I've never felt the power of God like this. I've never felt the power of God like this. Well, they went under the water, kaploosh, and he came back. He's shouting and yelling and thanking Jesus. I mean, it's all on the video. You can see the atheist suddenly is now proclaiming the name of Jesus as he comes up out of the water and confessing that this is the power of God. This is the power of Jesus upon me here.
You know, this is what the world needs. This is what our society needs.
Absolutely.
An encounter with the glory and the fire of God. Now, Pastor Mandy, you have seen this bipolar dealt with by Jesus in the water.
Yes. So a young lady named Andrea and her husband Michael, they just started to come around and raised her whole life in church. But like anybody raised in church, you start to get bored with it when you don't see any real demonstration of power. She said that she never knew that God cared so much or was willing to actually reach down into her life and have an effect on her. And so she had been on anxiety and bipolar medicine for over 15 years. She has a young family, and she was just saying, when she heard that we were going to have these services, she said immediately in her heart, she packed her bags, and she packed a little backpack with a towel and a change of clothes, because she knew, I am going to encounter Jesus. I don't have to live with this. I don't have to depend on medicine.
Hallelujah.
My kids don't have to see me rely on this. I'm going to see this break off of me. And she didn't even know a lot about this and heard about this kind of stuff before. She was raised in a Baptist church. But in her heart, she just made that determination, I believe, and I'm gonna step out. And so she and her husband wasn't even a believer. And he would have said he was, but he had never been born again. So they get into the water together, along with their 2 little girls and their little boy. And they get plunged under the water. And when they came up, the countenance on their face changed completely. They began to laugh. They were crying. Every possible emotion was erupting in that pool. And she comes out of the water and talks to me in the bathroom, and she said, I have never felt like this. I feel so alive. Jason catches the husband in the bathroom, and Jason said, how do you feel? He just said, freedom, freedom.
He just let out in the restroom, freedom. It was so unnatural for him to do anything like that. And I said, this brother has changed.
He said to the degree, he felt the change so dramatic that he said the next day when we interviewed him, he said, I feel like I should change my name because I am not the same. I am a different person. He told everybody at work, he calls his grandmother and his dad, and he's like, something has happened to me. I am brand new. So God healed their marriage. He restored joy. Andrea came off of those meds for the first time in 15 years and never experienced one withdrawal symptom. She said previously, if she was running out of the medicine and she could maybe only take half a dose just to get her through, she would be in the bed because just shaking and just feeling so not herself. But she said she had not one withdrawal symptom, and to this day, months later, has never gone back, has never looked back. Their family has encountered Jesus and is going full force for him, serving. They're on our praise team. Their life has been changed.
Pastor Jason, Pastor Mandy, I'm telling you, I just wish we just had more time because we got so many more stories.
So many.
I want to encourage you all that are watching right now to share this video as many times as you possibly can, because it just builds people's hope, and people need hope today because they're going through a lot of things, suffering, a lot of heartache, depression, anxiety, bipolar, MS. You may even have an unbeliever in your family, an atheist. Share this link, share this video, and let them watch this, because I believe God will speak to them. Let me also encourage you to get to the North Georgia Revival. It's in Dawsonville, Georgia, Christ Fellowship Church, and I want you to come to experience what the Lord is doing in the baptismal waters. I really believe it'll be worth your trip, no matter where you are. We have people every single week coming from all over the country, from the West Coast, from the North, from the South, on the far side of the country, New York City, etc., Maine. They come to encounter Jesus in the water, and every person leaves having a moment with Jesus, and the Lord manifests in different ways. So mark your calendar right now. Come and experience what God is doing. And Pastor Jason, Pastor Mandy, thank you for being with us today. God's using you all in Eastern Kentucky. We want you to know that we love you, we're praying for you, and thank God for you. And I look forward to seeing you next time on our next show of Point of Contact.
You've been watching Point of Contact with Pastors Todd and Karen Smith.